Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams, they receive some more accolades while Maxx Crosby gets the snub. We'll talk about that plus a whole lot more coming up on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, January 13th, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen each and every day. Remember, you can find the Locked On Raider podcast free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Thanks to my man Ari on Twitter at Ari Produces, doing a fantastic job each and every day. It is Thursday's edition. Normally it's a crossover edition, but there's no more games to talk about for the Raiders, so no crossover edition, but it's still being brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Now, off top, want to let everyone know that, the show got up a little bit later than normal on YouTube because we found out there was a little bit of a problem with the either the internet connection or something, but the video wasn't the way it was supposed to be. So my man Ari, at Ari Produces on Twitter, said, Q, I'm sorry, man. You have to run it back. You have to do it over again. So here we go. Take 2 when it comes to the Locked On podcast today for Thursday, January 12th, 2023. Let's go ahead and get into news and notes of the day. I thought this was pretty interesting. Thought it was a really cool idea, and it is a really cool idea that the NFLPA are doing for the first time. The NFLPA created their own all-pro team for the 2022 season, and I saw the team actually released by Adam Schefter. He tweeted it out on Wednesday and thought it was cool. So here's the details on it. Every active NFL player had the opportunity to cast their vote for the team. The results exclusively decided by their collective voters. Each player was allowed to vote for their own position group and position groups they lined up against. Players were not allowed to vote for themselves or their own teammates, and any player that missed 5 or more games as of Week 15 was ruled ineligible. So, here is a team as it stands, the very first All-Pro first team, according to the NFLPA. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes, running back Josh Jacobs, fullback Kyle Juszczyk from the Niners, wide receivers Justin Jefferson and Davante Adams, tight end Travis Kelce, left tackle Trent Williams, left guard Joel Bitonio, center Jason Kelce, right guard Zach Martin, right tackle Lane Johnson. As far as edge rushers go, Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett. Interior defensive lineman Chris Jones and Aaron Donald, nose tackle Dexter Lawrence, off-ball linebackers Fred Warner and Roquan Smith, Pat Surtain II and Darius Slay are the cornerbacks, free safety Minka Fitzpatrick, strong safety Derwin James Jr., kick returner Cordell Patterson, punt returner Kevontae Turpin, core teamer Jeremy Reeves, Justin Hardy. Kicker, Jason Myers. Punter, Tommy Townsend, who's actually the brother of Johnny Townsend, who the Raiders drafted at one point to be their punter, and he was not very good. Long snapper, Morgan Cox. So that's the first team. Okay, so what's the problem? Josh Jacobs is there. Davante Adams is there representing the Raiders. Who's not there? Well, Maxx Crosby. And normally I wouldn't say, he got snubbed. I wouldn't make a big deal of it because it's just, it's voting. Anyone who's been listening to me for a while knows that I don't get caught up in the, top 100. I don't get caught up in a whole lot of the, the votings and the all-pro. But when I took a look at it, and I said, okay, Nick Bosa, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's probably going to be Defensive Player of the Year. And Myles Garrett, he's always up for Defensive Player of the Year. And then I kind of did a little bit of a deeper dive, and I was actually talking about this on Raider Nation Radio 920 on Wednesday, and I looked at Crosby's numbers as opposed to Myles Garrett. And it's funny, as I'm re-recording the show, I've already had people hit me up on Twitter saying, Myles Garrett and the Browns are way better than the Raiders. Not really. The Browns had 7 wins. The Raiders had 6. I'm not disputing Nick Bosa. And this is how you know that people just read headlines on Twitter and don't actually listen to the show. Because if they had known that, they would have heard me say, I have no problem with Nick Bosa. That makes a lot of sense. And really don't have a big issue with Myles Garrett. I'm really kind of splitting hairs on here. But if you really want to break it down and look at who had the better season, and I can't expect every single player to understand that Maxx Crosby had a much better season than Myles Garrett, but he did. And this is why. Crosby played in 17 games, had 88 tackles, combined tackles, of course, from the defensive end position, which is unheard of. 12.5 sacks, 22 tackles for losses, 4 passes defense, 3 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and a kick block. Myles Garrett, you ask? 16 games played, 60 tackles, 16 sacks, which is 3.5 more than Maxx Crosby had, 18 tackles for loss, 4 pass defense, 2 forced fumbles, and no kick blocks. So when you look at it, who actually had the bigger, big of a advantage or a effect and impact on the game for their respective team? I would say it's Maxx Crosby. Played in every game, had more tackles. Yes, he had less sacks, but he had more tackles for losses, had the same amount of passes defense, 3 forced fumbles as opposed to 2, also recovered a fumble, so he got the ball back, and he blocked a field goal attempt, right, which is all effort. So, again, I know that I'm splitting hairs, and I know that we can sit here and say, yeah, this, that, and the other. And, again, Myles Garrett, because he's done it consistently, his name is always going to be up there. But if you really break it down, you want to really be honest about the situation and look at it, Maxx Crosby got a little bit of a snub. So that's all I brought up, and it's so funny to see all the people that had their reaction on Twitter. They're like, no, it wasn't a snub. It wasn't a snub. Well, yeah, it was kind of a snub. So there's that. Also wanted to go ahead and pass along this note from Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. He said, indications remain that the Raiders will move forward with defensive coordinator Patrick Graham per sources. Some hot seat talk surfaced, but the Raiders were depleted on defense and planned for upgrades. So anyone who thought that Patrick Graham was going to get fired, I didn't think that he was going to get fired because there's not a lot of talent when it comes to the Raiders and the defensive side of the ball. We've been talking about the defensive side of things for quite a while now. Felt like that they needed to upgrade. I mean, outside of Maxx Crosby, as we just talked about, I mean, who else is a no-doubter they have to return? So didn't think that it was all on Patrick Graham. Now, he's got to obviously prove a lot coming up in 2023, but they go out there, they bring in some more players and some more talent to get it done. I can see Patrick Graham being a good defensive coordinator. But now it's going to be squarely on his shoulders to get it done. But they have to obviously go out there and get the players. Also, another little piece of news and notes that I wanted to bring to you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Former Stanford head coach David Shaw interviewed on Wednesday with the Denver Broncos. This is according to Adam Schefter on Twitter about their head coaching job. Shaw spent 9 years in the NFL from 97 to 2005 with the Eagles, Raiders, and Ravens, and interested in returning to the pro game. Now, I'm interested in that. I'm really interested and intrigued by this Denver Broncos situation. Who are they going to bring in? Is it going to be Sean Payton? Is it going to be Jim Harbaugh? Is it going to be David Shaw? There are reports out there that David Shaw could actually end up being Jim Harbaugh's offensive coordinator. I'll say this about the Broncos. I know the Raiders have had their way with the Broncos for a while now, but man, I'll tell you, they have some ownerships with some deep, deep pockets, and they're going to do everything they can to throw as much money at whoever they need to go ahead and get it right with the coaching staff and be able to be that real deal team. They got a lot of money invested in Russell Wilson, so they're going to try to do everything they can to make it work. So that's one of these coaching hires and coaching vacancies that I'm really paying attention to because, man, things could change quick, fast, in a hurry if a Jim Harbaugh or a Sean Payton or other goes to Denver and gets things turned around. You know they have a really good defense. They can get that offense figured out, man. It could be a tough, tough road in the AFC West. So that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, kind of news and notes of the day as we're kind of doing this over on YouTube just because our YouTube page was a little jacked, and I don't want that to happen, and my man Ari is not going to let that happen. So coming up in segment number 2, we're going to talk about the quarterback position. We're going to talk about Jarrett Stidham, talk about rookies, talk about veterans, and what all that means. What am I talking about? We'll do it in segment number 2 after I tell you about a couple of great sponsors, including betonline.net, your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every pro and amateur league out there, from pro football. College bowl season just got wrapped up. Basketball, they've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, clearly you do, you can find those as well at betonline.net. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting information on. All you got to do is head to the website today on your laptop or your mobile device to learn about more. betonline.net. That is where the game starts. Also want to tell you about the Ultimate Football GM. This is a game that gets me excited. We do this all the time. We talk about this. We've been talking about this the past few days here on the Locked On Raiders podcast, and that is basically you being the GM of an NFL team and you putting it together. That's what this game is all about, hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, and all the ups and downs of a season. We do that every single day. We do that sitting at a sports bar talking to our buddies. Now you get a chance to do it, but in video game 4. All Locked On Raider podcast listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On. It's all caps, and it's in the game store. Again, promo code Locked On. It's all capitals. You can find it in the game store. Make sure you check it out today. You want to download it? Again, hit up the game store, ultimate-gm.com. Look it up on the App Store. It's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into the quarterback conversation because there's always going to be the quarterback conversation. Matter of fact, as of early Thursday morning, Ian Rappaport had put out on Twitter that, and I'll give you the exact quote, Sources, the Raiders will begin the process of evaluating the trade market for quarterback Derek Carr. As they prepare for a decision on their quarterback for the future, this points to the possibility of Carr, who holds a no-trade clause and will be part of the process, leaving the organization. So that's Ian Rappaport early Thursday morning. That's cool that came out, and we actually have to redo the show because I was talking about the quarterback position anyway as it pertains to Jarrett Stidham, a veteran or a rookie. And this is the thing. I'm not going to sit here and pound the table about Derek Carr each and every day. That conversation gets old. We'll see what happens when it happens. Just like Ian Rappaport said, they're going to start the process. But I do want to look at the alternatives. We've talked about the alternatives when they sat Derek Carr down. Now the reality of it is we saw Jarrett Stidham for 2 games, and I thought he did well. Does that mean he's the quarterback of the future? Does that mean you want him as the quarterback of the future? These are your options. You could say, hey, if I'm the ultimate GM, right? If I'm the GM of the Raiders, if I'm Dave Ziegler and I'm Josh McDaniels, okay, let's roll with Jarrett Stidham and let's draft a rookie. And they can even battle it out in camp, and whoever wins, wins. If they do that, that to me signifies that they think that they're a couple years away. That means that they feel like, hey, you know what? We're not going to be able to compete for the AFC West title. We're not going to be able to compete for a deep playoff run. We're not going to be able to compete for a Lombardi anytime soon. So let's go ahead and roll with the young guys, continue to build up the team defensively, build up the offensive line, and try to make that thing go. That's what that signifies to me if they either decide to roll with Jarrett Stidham or a rookie. If they let those guys go into camp and battle. I do think Jarrett Stidham, as I mentioned on Wednesday's show, is very important to bring back. I would give him a 3-year deal. I'd do it before free agency even opened up so no other team could go get him. He's more valuable to the Raiders, in my opinion, than any other team in the league. He knows Josh McDaniels' system. He can continue to grow in Josh McDaniels' system, and, he could be, at the very least, a really stinking good backup that's very comfortable. And you can look around the landscape of the league. How many teams need a really good stinking backup? Look, Miami is about to be booted out the playoffs because they don't have a quality backup. Right, the Jets didn't make it to the playoffs because they don't have a quality backup. Multiple teams, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are probably going to get booted out the playoffs this upcoming weekend because they don't have that backup that they feel super comfortable with, like a Jarrett Stidham would for the Raiders. So Jarrett Stidham should probably be given like a 3-year deal, maybe 3 years, $15 million. And I'm not a capologist, so I'm just throwing out a number that I think would be reasonable, especially for a guy who made about $75,000 in 2022. $15 million over 3-year deals, give him some guaranteed money. That's a nice little pay raise right there. But this is the other side of the coin, and this is the other side that I've been talking about. If they go out and get a veteran, and we know the names that are out there, the Bradys, the Garoppolos, maybe the Aaron Rodgers, or whoever they feel like is that veteran, to me, that tells me, okay, they feel like they could win immediately. So that's what I'm looking at. When the Raiders make their decisions on whoever they're going to go forward with, I feel like if they go get a veteran, like say Tom Brady, for example, that would be the veteran that I look at that say, okay, that's the one most likely the Raiders will pick up. To me, Tom Brady's not going to go to the Raiders if he doesn't feel like he has a chance to win. So if he agrees to it, then I'm thinking, okay, that means the Raiders feel like that they're a lot closer than maybe it looked like in 2022, right? Maybe they're a Tom Brady and some others away. Obviously, you got to build the defense. You got to build the offensive line. But as I mentioned on the show before, if Brady goes to a team, there's going to be quality players that want to go play with him, regardless. Not to mention he's going to make the players around him better. And I know it's the tail end of Brady's career. Who knows what he has left? But he still is one of those guys that commands to make sure everyone is better. So if he were to agree to go to the Raiders, to me that signifies that, okay, the plan that they have in place, he believes in, that he thinks he could win. Not to mention the Super Bowl is obviously in Vegas in 2024. That'd be a hell of a storyline, right? A hell of a storyline. He's already won a Super Bowl with the Patriots, won one with Tampa Bay when they had an opportunity to host it. He was able to get that done. The storyline would be all year long until the Raiders were either eliminated or it just didn't happen, right? That'd be a storyline all season long in the 2023 season with the Raiders hosted the playoffs in the calendar year, or the hosted the Super Bowl in the calendar year of 2024. So, and of course, they can always go after another veteran like a Jimmy G, but to me, that's a lateral move. Right, if you go and replace Derek Carr with Jimmy G, to me, the only thing Jimmy G has on Derek Carr is he knows the system. But he's also injury prone. So that's where Jarrett Stidham would have to go in there and be that guy. And a rookie, I just don't think a rookie's going to be ready immediately. I think that you'd have to trade up from 7 to go get the guy that you want if that guy is there. And I don't know how Davante Adams would be happy with it. I don't know if he'd be happy with it, and that'd be the guy that he wants to catch passes with. So I think when you're thinking about the quarterback position, and this is what the Raiders and Dave Ziegler are doing right now in the front office, when they're thinking about who they're going to bring in, they're thinking about the short term. What does it mean short term for the organization? What does it mean long term? Do we think we could win right now, or do we think that, no, it's going to be like a 2 or 3 year process? something to think about when you're thinking about who you want as the next quarterback. But you could always let me know. 707-654-4693. That's the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line. Again, 707-654-4693. We'll get to your calls and texts next after I tell you about Built Bar. And if you're looking for a delicious treat, you don't want fat and calories, you got to try Built Bar. Built.com is the website. It got you through the holidays. It could get you through the holidays and into your New Year's with the New Year's resolutions. They have everything that you can imagine. Churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. They've even got gluten-free Built Bar. So if you're somebody that that's very important to you, and there's plenty of people out there that it is, they've got the Built Puff brownie batter, gluten-free. So that's all available on the website, including a whole lot more, too. You can build your own box. You can get a granola bar special. You can get the OG specials, like the cookies and cream, mint brownie, cherry barcia, coconut, almond, raspberry, any kind of flavor that you want, any kind of order that you want as far as a box. You want to mix and match, you could do that as well. You just got to go to the website, built.com. When you go to checkout, use that promo code LOCKEDON15, all capitals, all one word, and you're going to save a lot of money when you go to checkout. That's not it. You also can go inside stores and get them. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, coconut puffs, salted caramel, brownie batter puffs at your nearest Smith's. If you're close to a Sam's Club, you can run in and grab a 13-bar box with all the hit flavors like brownie batter, churro, and, well, you can thank me later. Built.com. If you're going to order online, it's Locked On 15, all one words, or you can go into Smith's, you can go into Sam's Club, Walmart. They've got them there for you as well. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Raider X. He's calling to talk about the Raiders free agents, what he believes should be priorities for the Raiders to bring back. Plus, he has a couple names he'd like to throw out there and has a comment on Derek Carr. Here he is, Raider X.
Q, Raider X. Calling in regards to your latest podcast about the unrestricted free agents. Fortunately, I got disconnected, so here's my updated call. Here you go. So Josh Jacobs, I believe, will be franchise tagged. I'd like to see him prove again his durability and his overall consistency, and then let's give him a good payday. Just want to make sure that we honor the overall business aspect of for Josh Jacobs. Also, Stidham, I'd like to see him get an incentive late of the contract. I don't want to break the bank on that guy, but I'd like to see if he can compete for a starter role with a little bit more solidified offensive line. Also, Jacob Johnson, because I think that he does a great job on the blocking and also knows the scheme, and he is invaluable on some of those options. Last but not least, Ross Moreau. He's a dual tight end, unlike Darren Waller. I think he provides a lot of blocking on the line. That's why he plays so much. And the last couple games, I know the last game wasn't a great offensive show, but it looks like he might have something going there with a better ball thrown to him. It didn't seem like a lot of the balls that he doesn't adjust well to certain balls, but it looks like when he was catching a pretty good ball with Stidham, and he produces pretty solid. And he's very durable, and it seems like he's always in the game. Also, just wanted to touch on one topic really quick, is that I'm very interested to find out exactly, and I think that might be one of the focus, is if the Raiders can really trade Derek Carr. I'm crossing my fingers if they can trade him and they don't release him. I think that's going to be a huge focal point, more so than I think we're giving focus to, is that if they can get some trade capital on him. I think that what might happen is just that he overall just walks away and gets released. I would like to see him play ball and really solidify his legacy. I mean, he's already given the Raiders a lot of great years, and he's a great human being, and I think that he needs to be remembered as that. And helping his team, and like you said, his dream team, to really cash in on his productivity on the field and off the field and who he is, and get some draft capital back, I think would be a great, just a great mark for the overall, package of Derek Carr in a Raiders uniform. That's about it. That gives your thoughts. Raider X out.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. Jacobs with the tag, I do think is a possibility. I just know that Josh Jacobs is not going to want that. right? And I think that the Raiders could do right by him, in my opinion, by giving him a deal, maybe a front-loaded deal, some guaranteed money, maybe turn it into a 4-year deal with a couple-year option or something like that to make it more of a, hey, thank you for what you've done. Let's continue to have that built-in success. But like you said, it very well easily could do the franchise tag. The one thing I do know is that I feel like the Raiders organization is not going to let Josh Jacobs go. As far as, Jakob Johnson, that makes sense. I talked about him. Stidham talked about him at great length in segment number 2, so that makes sense. Foster, I'm interested in. I want to know what, his drops or, the balls that bounce off his hands and turn into interceptions, what that, what the organization, what Josh McDaniels, what Dave Ziegler thought when they had those kind of moments. Because he's a really good locker room guy. He works really hard, like you mentioned, but he's just doesn't seem to be where he needs to be. I mean, he needs to get on the jugs machine. His words, not mine, right? That's what he said multiple times after games when he had balls bounce off his hands. So it's a good question with him. I can see them not making him a priority, but maybe bringing him back. Let him test the open market and see what happens and bringing him back at some point. Now, when it comes to Carr, if the Raiders could trade him, that's a good question. There's a good chance that they can't. Hopefully there's a handful of teams out there that want him. If they do, then there's a chance that they can move on from him. If not, they'll probably have to release him, like you said. Thanks so much for that call. Next up, got a text from T3 Raider Facts. He said, Q, first of all, I want a big greetings to everyone in Raider Nation who tunes into the podcast on a daily. Been rolling with y'all and each and every day, and now we hit the offseason. Q, I wanted to get your feedback on 4 key free agents. Defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson, defensive back James Bradbury, both of whom have ties to Patrick Graham, defensive tackle Jerron Payne of Washington, and Atlanta's offensive tackle Caleb McGarry. Could we get 2 of these 3 guys at the jump, or are there other guys that you've been looking at? It's never too early to start putting together a list. I'm passionate about the Raiders, and passion outlives fashion. That's T3 Raider Facts. Thank you so much for that text. And it's funny, man, I was talking about possible free agents on the radio on Wednesday, and Jerron Payne was my guy. Defensive tackle for Washington. I think he's going to have to be I think they're going to have to let him walk because they paid too many guys on the defensive line. So I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to be available. Had 11.5 sacks for the defensive tackle position. Now, that's a career year for him, and it is a contract year, so you know how that goes. But he's a guy that's only 25 years old. I feel very good about. I would love to see the Raiders make a move for him. I think that for Spotrac.com, they said market value on him would be about a 4-year deal, $71 million, 4 or 5-year deal for $71 million. I'm good with that. He's only 25 years old. I'm good with that. Dalvin Tomlinson, like you said, he does have the ties to Patrick Graham. I think Jerron Payne is just a better player. James Bradbury, I was pounding the table for them to go get him last offseason. They didn't. I don't think that they're going to pay him the money that he wants, especially after having a really good season this past year with the Eagles. As far as Caleb McGarry, he actually had a really good season for the Falcons. I could see the Raiders trying to upgrade the offensive line because there's definitely offensive line upgrades that need to be had. My interesting thing, while we're talking about the offensive line, T3, is do the Raiders think about kicking Colton Miller back to the right side? I've thrown that out there a couple times just to see what people's reaction would be. And so far, no one's really pushed back no way, can't push him to the right side. I would not be shocked if they try to kick him to the right side and go and get a stud left tackle, whether it be, a Caleb McGarry, go and get I don't think Orlando Franklin, someone suggested him from Kansas City. I don't think that he's going to get out of Kansas City since they gave up draft capital for him. I just can't see that happening. But, maybe going into the draft and getting a big-time player like the young man from Ohio State that should be a top 10 offensive line pick, maybe putting him at the left tackle position and kicking over Colton Miller to the right. That's what I'm really interested in. What they're going to do, how they're going to upgrade that offensive line, because we know it has to happen quick, fast, and in a hurry. Thank you so much for that text. I appreciate you. Got time for a couple more. Barry from Baltimore. He's calling in to talk about the Raiders' defense and also talks about the podcast and what he hears from players in the locker room. Here he is, Barry in Baltimore.
What's up, Q? This is Barry from Baltimore. Just wanted to call in a couple thoughts regarding just the season in general, and then from the pod today. Of course, the season didn't work out the way I wanted it, or I guess anyone did. A lot of close games, a lot of blown leads, which, man, they had it, but they didn't. That's just that you are what your record is. I just hope they make some improvements. I'm just hoping that they can just get this defense right. I mean, whatever they got to do. I mean, the defense needs just to be upgraded, and I would just love to be able to watch a game and watch a defense just consistently stop an offense. I know it's hard these days in the NFL, but I'm hoping they can get to that. But regarding the pod today, I appreciate you putting these locker room interviews on here, and the main one is the Maxx Crosby one, and also even Josh Jacobs. So as a fan, you know, and in the moment, you know, when they lose or, you know, Kansas City game, my first thing is, I want McDaniels gone. I want McDaniels gone, you know, and I know that you got to give these coaches chances. So, you know, I realize that, and that's what I'll fall back on. But what also helps to hear is when Maxx Crosby talks about McDaniels, you hear, you know, Jacobs, I hope they bring him back, Adams, I mean, they talk about, you know, even Chandler Jones. I saw an interview after the game when he walked it off with that touchdown. McDaniels walked by. He's like, I love that dude. So if the players like him and buying in, I mean, who am I to say? You know what I mean? So we got to give it time. I'm going to give it time. I'm just not going to I'm going to try not to get super pumped up this off season like I did last season, but that's easier said than done. They make a couple big signings defensively, I'm probably going to be back in. That's just how it is. Anyways, though, man, I just want to appreciate what you do. Wanted to call in a couple thoughts on it, and I'm ready for this off season. See what they do. I really want to see what they do defensively. I want to see what the upgrades they make offensively, especially QB. A defensive player I would love for them to try to get. I don't know if they will. I would love Roquan Smith. I mean, I don't know if Ravens let him go, if they tag him or what, but man, I think he would be a perfect Raider, you know, similar to what Maxx Crosby was describing, what he wants on that team. But, you know, who knows? You know, it could be a dream, but that would be awesome. But anyway, I'm out, man. Go Raiders.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And let's start with Roquan Smith. That would have been great, right? That's a guy that I've had my mind on for a while, even since he was in Georgia. Wanted the Raiders to draft him. They didn't get the chance because the Bears did, and then the Ravens traded for him. So that was another opportunity. The Raiders had two opportunities. Well, not really two, because the Bears drafted him before the Raiders were on the clock. But the second time, I thought that the Raiders should make that trade. But once Baltimore made that trade, you knew they weren't going to let him get out of town, and so they paid him. They paid him a very good amount of money, which is great for him. He negotiated that contract, which also means that the Ravens can now use the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson, which most likely they will, because he's not getting out of town. I know a lot of Raider fans have said get him into Las Vegas. I don't see that happening either. So he would have been a great one, but obviously he's off the market. As far as the locker room sounds, man, I love the locker room sounds. I still have Josh Jacobs from Monday and Amir Abdullah that I haven't played yet. I'll probably bring that up on tomorrow's show. I thought that was some really good stuff. Those guys, man, when you get in the locker room and get an opportunity to talk to them, it's next level coverage. So I always, I'm glad to do it. I'm glad that you appreciate it and really enjoy hearing from them. And hopefully a lot more people do as well. The only problem is that we're not going to hear in the locker room anytime soon, and that's the only part that stinks. But definitely appreciate it. And, you know, from everybody I talk to in the locker room as well, when it comes to the head coach, they're all on board with them. That could be lip service. That could be, you know, just throwing it out there because they don't want to say anything bad about the coach. But it seems pretty genuine from what I'm able to pick up on in the locker room. So, Barry, thank you so much for that call. We'll close things out with a text from North Texas Raider. What's up, Q? It's North Texas Raider. I wanted to ask what you think about Tyler Hall. Dude seemed to come out of nowhere this season, and it sure felt like I heard his name called on a lot of good plays in the last few games. Is he somebody I should feel hyped about or just a flash in the pan, you think? Love what you do for the nation. North Texas Raider out. Thank you so much for that text, my man. And I'll say this. When it comes to Tyler Hall, he is a guy that, one, has a 2-year deal. So when the Raiders brought him up and added him to the active roster, they made sure that they had a 2-year deal. So obviously there's something that they see in him. And you're right. He seemed like he was around the ball more times than he wasn't. Also, he was a guy that just kind of seemed like he would just make plays. If it was getting in the backfield, getting to the quarterback, he came up with a big sack one game. Also had some pass breakups. He just seems like he understands the game. Now, does that mean he's going to turn into some stud? I don't know. But it just seemed like towards the end of the season, like you mentioned, I looked up a lot and I saw 37, and that was Tyler Hall, and he's making some plays. So I think with the full offseason, training camp, preseason, he could actually be something in that Patrick Graham scheme. So we'll see what happens. But good call right there, North Texas Raider, on Tyler Hall. Seems like a dude who could be a good up-and-comer. And so that's all I got time for on today's show. Definitely appreciate all the calls and texts, all the feedback. I still got a call from Windy City Raider. We'll get it on tomorrow's show. Plus, hopefully, we'll get a little bit of locker room sound from Josh Jacobs and Amir Abdullah as we close out the week really strong. So thanks so much, Raider Nation, for making the show your first listen each and every day. Remember, you can find the show free and available, including on YouTube. Thanks to my man Ari, who said, Q, you got to run it back. You got to do the show over. It's not acceptable. It's not good enough for Raider Nation. So I did that. So thank you, Ari, for being on top of that, at Ari Produces on Twitter. And so till tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.